Hey there, students. My shirt says Northern Pacific, which has that yin yang thing going. I think it wasn't it Bohr also who had a yin yang kind of coat of arms for himself, and another more obscure one, but the official technocracy movement or party. Now, Bucky Fuller, I talk about a lot here. I don't say he's a technocrat in the sense of ever. I don't have a record that he joined the technocrats or really thought the way he did, but the technocrats had a yin yang symbol. They would dress in gray suits and caravan in long lines of gray cars and kind of be. It fit with Art Deco, but it also looks, Art Deco blended in with what became considered fascist architecture. Now, my past, I lived in Rome. I lived south of Rome in what's called EUR, and that was built by the sort of Mussolini generation. We call it Mussolini Village in a way. I mean, we called it that for fun sometimes. So I know that style of architecture, you could say, but I was just a little kid and it didn't seem that bad, right? I didn't have all the associations. It's just I lived in a pretty interesting place, it seemed to me. I only lived there a while. We moved, still had stayed in Rome though. So where I want to locate, if you're a teacher now, and there's still all kinds of disruption in terms of routines and lots going on with computer files, which are shared. You're doing more like TV, right? Like real time TV is going on. Like that's another way to do education, real time TV. Then there's more likely asynchronous TV. And those are like two kinds of broadcasting, which we could call one to many. But then there are meetings where we have many to many. Now, what I'm pointing at and what this chart is, I'm going to show you its context in a second. But I just think this is a useful way to think, to break things down. I'm not saying I I don't remember that I copied this from anywhere, but I've looked and there other people talk about these exact same things. So anyway, I don't think this will be a mystery to anybody, but it helps to think in terms now, especially with schools. Are they open? Are they closed? Well, they're asynchronous a lot more. And if you think about, what's been going on the internet anyway, if you've kind of been too busy to check on that because you're too busy teaching in real time in a traditional classroom, as we say, brick and mortar, you might not realize how asynchronous it all has become in terms of you play the tapes when you want to and you listen when you want to and then you do the work when you want to. So asynchronous, but do you have a one-on-one relationship with anyone? And this is, here we have question like, do you have any teachers really one-on-one? And then there's the one-to-many ratio. So you may more likely be part of a many and you relate to one teacher, a small class, right? Or it could be fairly big class, but there's a limit. Like if you're paired if you're told your teacher is so and so, but that same teacher is being paired with in some way 10,000 students. Well, how can that? What kind of? That's not one to one for sure, right? You're not going to really feel like, or how does it all work in the details? And this does not get into details really. So I don't think this answers all questions, and I'm suggesting another axis at the bottom. Like this doesn't even get into virtual versus in person, right? So there's a lot that's not in this chart. Now the context is still its useful breakdown is this YouTube, which I think most of the time spends focusing on sort of a train track looking down. It's a diagram thing. But I just wanted to orient you on sort of where I am in the curriculum. Where I am is looking at, say, play as being very much in just creative play mode as a kid, and this is like your first exposure to some content. You might not be a kid, but let's say you're just going along this track, and let's see, at some point you're going to have a switch that we don't usually put in high school. So these are grades 9 to 12. And pretty much if you wanted to go on to higher education, in other words 13 through 16, which is a little above there, then you would be either taking the higher math track and getting up into calculus and stuff like that, or you'd be on a more what we'd call a vocational track, or you're not going to go maybe to higher education because you're not learning calculus or whatever. Like this was, you kind of make your choice if you're in a pre-college curriculum or maybe some other kind of curriculum. And this some other kind of curriculum started to just fall away because everyone was going to go to college, it seemed like, and there was just this big flood into the calculus pipeline. And instead here I'm saying, hey, at algebra around there, let's resurrect this other pipeline as well. We can call it more hands-on because there's going to be a lot more use of computers and stuff. There's going to be like more toys, maybe you could say, and it's more digital. And calculus is like Delta Calc, I'm calling it, is all very continuous. It's analog. It's like over on the right, you can get away with everything's digital. Everything's kind of quantized. Discrete math, you could call it. Now I call it Lambda Calc to just compare it off with Delta Calc, and you could call it computer science. And this is what people have been wrestling with. They've been saying, well, how are we going to fit computer science alongside math? And it's kind of, I have a different language for that. And I'm not really calling this computer science. I'm thinking computer science pervades the curriculum and doesn't. I'm sticking with the whole STEM versus path. And a lot of people don't even use path. So, I have more of a language behind this, but you don't need to learn all that just to get what you got. And so here I am kind of going up that side of the fence, the lambda calculus side, or don't call it a fence. I'm taking the right side. Doesn't matter which side is which, but you've forked off, and you're going to have a high school that's still very math intensive, but instead of a lot of calculus, you're going to be getting to the low-hanging fruit in things like group theory and number theory. And it's not all about proofs. Yes, proofs feature, but you also want to know the applications and really motivating a desire to know the theorem, get it to be relevant, and then show sort of how it works, right? What does it mean comes first? And that means applications, and so cryptography, and so on and so forth. So I'm very hands-on with what's a permutation. It's written in Python. If you write it in some other language, it's just, hey, here's a hands-on kind of thing. Remember, this Lambda Calc is picking up where shop used to be. So you really want to have your Jupyter notebooks. You really want to create them in GitHub and all this stuff, what we're doing. But it's not a real-time thing. It's asynchronous. And so we here at School of Tomorrow, that's kind of where we're at, open for business, kind of hovering in the upper high school. We're in the kind of 9 through 16 range, I'd say, in terms of what we cover. And we do a lot with Jupyter Labs and so forth, okay? So that's where we're at, and open for business, a lot of asynchronous going on. Working with a lot of you on social media, but you're also just working with each other, as it should be. All right, talk to you soon.